Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into a book that, well, it's caused quite a stir over the years, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's definitely one of those reads that gets people talking, maybe even arguing a bit.
For sure.
Yeah.
We're going to try and cut through some of that noise today. We're looking at Robert Kiyosaki's foundational text, really trying to pull out the core lessons, the essential stuff that he claims really changed his whole financial perspective.
Right. And it's built around this really compelling narrative, his two dads, one, his biological father, highly educated, good government job, but, the poor dad in the title.
Right. Valued security, the steady paycheck.
Exactly. And then there's the rich dad, his friend Mike's father. An entrepreneur focused on independence, building wealth, completely different mindset.
So our mission today really is to unpack the 6 key lessons that Rich Dad apparently taught Kiyosaki over, 30 years?
That's the claim. These are the ideas Kiyosaki says are fundamental, the things that can guide you, the listener, towards thinking differently about wealth, no matter your job or, frankly, what the economy's doing.
Okay, good plan. But before we jump into philosophies and maybe challenging some common beliefs, we need the usual disclaimer.
Always. Look, we're digging into the ideas here, presenting what the sources say. This is for information, for thinking differently.
It's definitely not specific financial or legal advice. Laws change. Personal situations are unique.
Absolutely. Take the concepts, mull them over. But if you're making actual financial decisions, you really need to talk to qualified professionals who know your specific situation.
Couldn't agree more. We're here to maybe upgrade your thinking, not pick your investments.
Well put.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. Mindset. Kiyosaki kicks things off with this huge difference he saw between his two dads. He calls it the power of thought exercise. Sounds a bit grand, but what's the core idea?
It's actually pretty straightforward but profound. He noticed his rich dad constantly. Well, he exercised his financial brain, deliberately.
Like going to the mental gym for money.
Kind of, yeah. He was actively learning about finance, reading reports, talking about deals, thinking about how money works. He treated financial intelligence as something you build, you work on daily.
Okay, so Rich Dad's actively training. What about Poor Dad?
Poor Dad, despite being very intelligent and highly educated, kind of let that part of his brain snooze. He focused on his job, his profession, earned a good salary.
And assumed that was enough.
Pretty much. He relied on his employer, maybe his accountant, the traditional path. He wasn't actively engaging with how to make money work.
So it's that gym analogy again. Rich Dad's lifting weights, Poor Dad's kind of hoping his good job keeps him financially fit without the workout.
Exactly. And Kiyosaki argues that financial health comes from that mental exercise, not just your income level or even your IQ.
And this difference in, mental habit.
Yeah.
It led to completely opposite beliefs, right? These clashing philosophies must have been confusing for a kid.
Oh, definitely. He shares some really stark contrasts. Let's talk responsibility first, because that hits hard emotionally.
Okay.
Poor Dad, when feeling stressed about money, apparently sometimes said things like, the reason I'm not rich is because I have you kids. Ouch.
Wow, yeah. Framing the kids as the financial burden.
Right. But Rich Dad, same situation, kids needing things. But his take was, the reason I must be rich is because I have you kids.
Ah, okay. So flipping it completely, responsibility is the motivator, not the obstacle.
Precisely. Same facts, totally different emotional and mental framing, and that powered his actions.
What about risk? That's always a big one.
Huge difference there, too. Poor Dad preached safety, don't take risks. The standard advice, job security is paramount.
Get the secure job, stay safe.
Yeah. Rich Dad taught, learn to manage risk. Big difference. He saw avoiding risk as avoiding opportunity. Financial intelligence wasn't about eliminating risk. It was about understanding it, minimizing it, knowing how to handle it.
Okay, that makes sense. Then there's the house thing. This always gets people fired up.
Doesn't it? Poor Dad followed the script. Our house is our biggest investment, our greatest asset. We hear that all the time.
We do. It's like financial gospel for many.
And Rich Dad just drops the bomb. My house is a liability, and if your house is your biggest investment, you're in trouble.
Whoa, okay, unpack that. Why liability? It's worth money, right?
But Kiyosaki's definition, taught by Rich Dad, is purely about cash flow. Does it put money in your pocket each month or take it out?
Okay, mortgage, taxes, insurance, repairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's money flowing out.
Exactly. So from a cash flow perspective, your primary residence is usually draining cash, has a liability in his framework. It's not about the potential resale value down the line. It's about the now.
That's a really different way of looking at it. What about their fundamental view on money itself.
Polar opposites again. Poor dad would often say things like, I'm not interested in money, or money isn't important. Maybe a bit defensively,
Trying to downplay because he felt he didn't have enough or couldn't control it.
Perhaps. Rich dad believed that was a way people trap themselves. He was very direct. Money is power.
Power. That sounds a bit intense.
He meant power in the sense of control. Control over your time, your choices, your life. It's a tool. And acknowledging its power is the first step towards actually acquiring it and using it effectively.
So for young Kiyosaki, watching these two very smart men, the takeaway wasn't about who had the better job or higher IQ.
Not at all. It was about which set of thoughts and beliefs actually led to wealth. He saw his poor dad struggling despite a good income and realized it was the thinking, the actions that stemmed from that thinking that made the difference.
So the choice wasn't about which dad to love more, but whose philosophy about money to adopt.
Exactly. And that's a conscious choice, he argues. You have to decide to actively think about finance, to exercise that mental muscle, rather than just drifting along with conventional wisdom.
Okay, so he makes this intellectual choice. He wants to learn from Rich Dad. And that leads straight into lesson 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which apparently started pretty brutally back in 1956. He was what, no?
Yeah, just 9 years old. He and his friend Mike went to Rich Dad and basically said, teach us how to make money.
And Rich Dad's response wasn't exactly handing them a stock portfolio.
Not quite. He gave them a job in one of his convenience stores, sweeping floors, for 10 cents an hour.
10 cents. Even in 1956, that sounds rough.
It was incredibly low pay. 3 hours every Saturday. Kiyosaki talks about feeling totally ripped off, like slave labor after doing this for about 4 weeks. He was getting angry.
I bet 30 cents for 3 hours work.
Exactly. He was ready to storm in and quit. And that anger, that was actually part of Rich Dad's plan.
Really? He wanted them to get mad.
Yes. The whole low-wage, hard work scenario was a setup, a psychological test to introduce them to what he called the rat race, or la foire d'un coin, as it's sometimes put in French, that sort of frantic scramble.
Rat race. The cycle of working just to pay bills.
Precisely. He wanted them to feel the frustration, the feeling of being trapped by the need for money. So when Kiyosaki finally confronts him demanding a raise or he quits,
Rich Dad ups the ante.
big time. He offers them more money, maybe 25 cents an hour, maybe even, Kiyosaki recalls, throwing out a figure like $2 an hour, which was huge for a kid then.
Wow. Okay, 10.
Massive temptation. Kiyosaki said his brain immediately started calculating, wow, $2, I could buy that new baseball glove, a bike, that instant desire, that greed.
That was the trap Rich Dad wanted him to seize.
Exactly, that immediate emotional reaction. Work hard, get paid, immediately think about spending it. That cycle, Rich Dad explained, is what keeps most people running their whole lives. Wake up, go to work, pay bills, maybe buy something nice, run out of money, wake up scared, go back to work, repeat for 50 years.
Yeah, you can see how that pattern locks people in.
And Rich Dad pinpointed the two core emotions driving it all, fear and greed, or maybe better put, fear and desire.
Fear of what? Not having enough?
Yeah, the fear of being broke, not being able to pay the bills, letting your family down. That fear gets you out of bed and makes you work hard for that paycheck. It's a powerful motivator.
Okay, so fear gets you working. Then what does desire do?
Once the money comes in, desire takes over. The desire for nicer things, a bigger house, a better car, more comfort, maybe just keeping up with the Joneses. So as soon as you get a raise,
Your expenses magically rise to meet it.
almost always, you make more, you spend more. The desire ensures you never quite get ahead, even with a high income. You're still trapped in the cycle, just maybe a slightly fancier version of it.
And more money doesn't actually solve the underlying fear or desire.
No, Rich Dad argued it just makes them louder. More money can mean more fear of losing it, and it definitely fuels more desire. The emotions are internal, the paycheck is external.
So when Kiyosaki got angry about the 10 cents, that was actually a good sign for Rich Dad.
He was thrilled. He said real learning needs passion, energy, anger, love, strong emotions. If Kiyosaki had just passively accepted the lousy pay, Rich Dad said he couldn't have taught him anything except how to be a compliant employee waiting for a raise.
So the anger showed he wasn't just going to accept the system without question.
Right. And the solution wasn't just get a better paying job. The solution was internal. Learn to recognize those emotions, the fear, the desire when they flare up.
And instead of reacting instantly,
Pause, think, use the emotions, don't let them use you. Ask yourself, is this fear pushing me to make a safe but ultimately limiting choice? Or is this desire making me want to spend money I should be using to build assets?
So it's about emotional intelligence around money, using fear and desire strategically for your long-term benefit, not letting them dictate your immediate actions.
That's the core of lesson 1. If you don't master that internal game, you'll spend your life chasing paychecks and blaming your boss, the economy, anything external for why you're stuck.
Okay, mastering those emotions, thinking instead of just reacting. That leads us into lesson 2, which sounds really fundamental, financial literacy.
Yeah, Rich Dad apparently called this the single most important rule for getting rich. Super simple on the surface. You must know the difference between an asset and a liability, and then buy assets.
Seems obvious. Like, doesn't everyone know that?
Well, Kiyosaki argues no. Not really, or at least not in the way Rich Dad defined it. He claims most financial struggle comes from people fundamentally confusing the two. They buy things they think are assets, but which are actually liabilities.
Like the house example we talked about.
Exactly, that's the big one. The quote he uses is stark. The rich acquire assets, the poor and middle class acquire liabilities, but they believe they are assets. That's the core misunderstanding.
So how did Rich Dad define them for the kids? Keep it simple.
Super simple. Forget complex accounting. It boiled down to cash flow direction. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. That's it.
Okay, simple enough. So assets would be
things that generate income, ideally passively, businesses you own but don't have to run day to day, rental properties bringing in rent, stocks paying dividends, bonds paying interest, notes people are paying you back on, royalties from intellectual property, money flowing to you.
Got it. And liabilities.
Mortgages, car loans, student loans, credit card debt, basically anything that requires you to consistently send money out.
Right. Now, Kiyosaki uses this to paint a picture of the typical middle-class financial struggle, even for high earners, right?
Yeah, he lays out the cash flow pattern. Think of a doctor or a lawyer, someone highly skilled, high income. Their income comes primarily from their job, their labor.
Okay, makes sense. Big paycheck coming in.
But then what happens? Expenses immediately rise. Taxes are usually the biggest expense taken right off the top. Then they acquire liabilities they think are assets.
The big house.
The big house, the nice cars, maybe a boat, all requiring payments, insurance, maintenance, money flowing out.
So their liability column grows, their expense column grows.
And it drains almost all the income. They become completely dependent on that next high paycheck just to service the liabilities and cover the high expenses. They're working harder and harder, but not actually getting wealthier.
They have the professional skills, but maybe not the financial skill, the money IQ to manage the cash flow.
That's exactly Kiyosaki's point. They're stuck on the income side, not focusing on the asset side.
This also ties into how we measure wealth, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Not just net worth.
Right. Net worth can be misleading. It includes your house, your cars, the stuff in your garage. Rich Dad measured wealth differently. He measured it in time.
Time. How so?
Wealth was defined as how long could you survive financially if you stopped working today? It's about how much passive income your asset column generates compared to your monthly expenses.
Ah, okay. So if your assets generate $5,000 a month passively, and your expenses are $4,000.
You're wealthy, by his definition. You could stop working. It doesn't matter if your net worth statement says you're a millionaire because your house is valuable. If you can't cover expenses without working, you're not truly wealthy in this framework.
So the wealthy cash flow pattern is the reverse.
Completely. They might have income from a job or business, but their primary focus is channeling that money into the asset column, buying things that generate more income.
And that income from the asset.
Covers their expenses.
Yeah.
And crucially, any surplus income isn't just spent on bigger liabilities.
It gets reinvested back into the asset column.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Buying more assets, which generate more income, which buys more assets. It becomes a cycle, a compounding loop.
The rich get richer.
Yeah.
Literally, their assets are breeding more assets.
While the middle class's income primarily goes to paying for liabilities, it's a fundamental difference in where the cash flows.
Okay, understanding assets versus liabilities, focusing on cash flow. That leads right into lesson 3. Mind your own business. This sounds less like finance and more like general life advice.
It is, but with a very specific financial application. Kiyosaki is quite critical here of how traditional education and career paths train us.
How so?
He argues the system trains people to be really good employees, to focus on getting a good job, climbing the ladder, increasing their income from that job. They perfect their profession.
Which sounds good. Isn't that what we're told to do?
It is. But the hidden trap, according to Rich Dad, is that you end up spending your entire life working incredibly hard to build someone else's business. Your employers. You're minding their business, making them wealthy.
While neglecting your own.
Exactly. Neglecting your own asset column. You become dependent on the job, the paycheck, and trade potential independence for perceived security.
So mind your own business means build your own asset column.
Precisely. Rich Dad wasn't necessarily saying, quit your job tomorrow, especially not at first. The advice was, keep your day job, pay the bills, but use your free time and any extra income to start buying or building real assets.
The stuff that generates passive income we talked about.
Yes. Businesses that can run without you being there 24/7. Income-producing real estate, stocks, bonds, notes, royalties. Focus on building that column on the side.
He uses that comic book library story as an example, right? From when they were kids.
Yeah, it's a brilliant little micro example of lesson 1 and 3 in action. After they quit the sweeping job.
The 10 cents an hour gig.
Right. They didn't just look for another job. They decided to start their own business. They noticed kids were throwing away old comic books.
Okay, so they saw an opportunity.
They collected these discarded comics. That was their inventory, their initial asset, sort of. But instead of just reselling them, they got clever.
What did they do?
They opened a comic book reading library in Mike's basement. They charged neighborhood kids, 10 cents admission to come in for a couple hours and read as many comics as they wanted.
Okay, a business model. Generating cash flow.
But here's the key mind your own business part and the make money work for you part. Did they sit there all day running the library themselves?
I'm guessing? No.
No. They hired Mike's younger sister, paid her $1 a week to be the librarian. She managed the operation.
So they created a business, an asset that generated income without their own continuous labor.
Exactly. They were making, on average, $9.53 profit for about 3 months before they had to shut it down. That's money working for them. They were business owners, not just employees trading time for money.
That really illustrates the difference, even on a tiny scale.
It does. And owning a business, even a small one like that, touches on another huge advantage Rich Dad emphasized. The tax difference.
Yes. The difference between how employees and business owners are taxed. This is significant.
It's massive. Think about it. As an employee, you earn your salary, say $5,000. The government takes taxes, Social Security, etc. first, right off the top.
Yep. You get what's left, your net pay.
And you spend that after-tax money on your life, your bills, everything.
Okay, standard stuff. How is it different for a business owner or investor?
They flip the sequence. The business earns the income, say that same $5,000. But before calculating the profit that gets taxed, the business can legally deduct legitimate business expenses.
Like what?
Oh, potentially part of car expenses, gas, maybe some travel, meals related to business, home office expenses, supplies, lots of things. Within the rules, of course.
So they earn, then they spend on the business.
And then they pay taxes on whatever profit is left over. So instead of paying income tax on the full $5,000, maybe they legally spend $1,500 on the business first and only pay income tax on the remaining $3,500 profit.
Wow, okay. So they use pre-tax dollars for things an employee has to use after-tax dollars for.
That's the fundamental advantage. It allows capital to be reinvested and grow much faster within the business structure, legally minimizing the tax burden. It's a huge part of why the rich often accelerate their wealth accumulation. They're playing by a different set of tax rules, one available to business owners and investors. So building that asset column, understanding the rules, it's not magic, Kiyosaki says, but it does require developing what he calls financial intelligence or a financial IQ.
Okay, so beyond the mindset stuff, what are the actual skills needed?
He breaks it down into 4 core technical skills that work together. Having just one isn't enough. It's the synergy.
Got it. What's number 1?
Accounting. And he doesn't just mean being able to add and subtract. He means financial literacy, the ability to actually read financial statements, a balance sheet, an income statement, and understand the story the numbers are telling you.
So interpreting the data, not just crunching the numbers.
Exactly. If you can't read the financials, you're flying blind or just trusting someone else's opinion entirely. You need to see how money is moving, where the strengths and weaknesses are.
Okay, accounting. What's second?
Investment. This is the science, or maybe art, of making money generate more money. Understanding strategies, risk versus reward, how different investment vehicles work, how compounding happens.
And things like leverage, using debt.
Yes, understanding how debt can be used strategically as leverage, a powerful tool for investors if used wisely, but obviously a huge burden if misunderstood or misused.
Right. Third skill.
Market understanding. This is about grasping the basics of supply and demand. But more than just theory, it's about recognizing opportunities in the real world, knowing what represents good value, and crucially, when the timing might be right to buy, often when others are fearful or ignoring something.
So spotting the deals others miss because you understand the market dynamics.
Pretty much. It requires paying attention and maybe being a bit contrarian sometimes.
Okay. Accounting, investment, market understanding was the fourth pillar.
Law and legislation. This is huge. Understanding the rules of the game, basically. Corporate structures, regulations, and especially tax laws.
Because the rules can give you advantages or disadvantages if you don't know them.
Absolutely. This is where things like tax shelters or specific legal strategies come in. Why the wealthy often have teams of lawyers and accountants to navigate these complexities and use the rules to their advantage.
You mentioned the Section 1031 exchange earlier. That fits here.
Perfectly. That's a specific piece of U.S. tax law. Other countries have similar mechanisms sometimes, but it lets real estate investors sell a property, and if they reinvest the proceeds into another like-kind property within a certain time,
They can defer paying capital gains tax on the profit?
exactly. They can potentially roll that profit over and over again, tax deferred, allowing their capital to compound much, much faster than if they had to pay tax on the gains each time they sold.
Wow, that alone seems like a massive advantage for growing wealth if you're in real estate.
It's huge. It's a prime example of using legal knowledge to accelerate growth, playing smarter within the system.
So those are the four technical skills. But Kiyosaki mentions another skill gap that often holds people back, even talented ones.
Yeah, and this one's maybe less technical, more personal. It's sales and marketing. Or maybe just communication and influence more broadly.
How did that fit in?
He observes that you can be the absolute best at what you do, the best chef, the best coder, the best artist, but if you can't sell yourself, your product, or your idea, you'll likely struggle financially.
You need to be able to communicate the value.
Right. He uses the McDonald's example. Are their burgers the best burgers in the world? Probably not.
Most people could probably name a better burger joint.
Sure. But McDonald's makes vastly more money. Why? Because they have incredible systems for delivery, marketing, and sales. They know how to sell.
So personal success requires not just being good at your craft, but being good at, well, selling it.
That's the argument. Being able to communicate effectively, negotiate, write persuasively, speak confidently in public, these are fundamental skills for building wealth, whether it's selling a product, pitching an investment, or negotiating a deal. Without them, your technical skills might not get you very far financially.
Okay, so let's say someone gets the lessons. They're working on the financial literacy, the four skills.
Right.
But they still don't seem to make progress. Kiyosaki talks about internal roadblocks, right? Obstacles that stop people.
Yeah, this is crucial. He says, even with the knowledge, these 5 emotional or mental hurdles often prevent people from actually acting and building wealth.
What's the first one? Probably the most common.
Fear. Specifically, the fear of losing money. It's almost universal. Nobody likes losing money.
Rich people don't like losing money either.
Absolutely not. Rich Dad apparently lost money plenty of times. The difference, Kiyosaki stresses, is how they handle that fear and the actual loss.
How so?
For many people, a loss, even a small one, is paralyzing. They lose $500 on a stock and they swear, never again, investing is too risky. Failure stops them cold.
Okay, so they retreat. How do winners handle it?
They see failure differently. They're inspired by it in a weird way. A loss is feedback. It's tuition paid for a valuable lesson. It makes them analyze what went wrong, get smarter, and try again with better strategy.
He mentions a Texan mentality.
Yeah, kind of a joking reference, but the idea is, if you're going to fail big, learn the lesson fast, maybe even brag about the lesson learned, not the failure itself, and then use that experience to fuel the next bigger attempt. If the thought of losing money just terrifies you emotionally, you'll always play it too safe.
Okay, so managing fear of loss is key. What's obstacle number 2?
Cynicism, or maybe incredulity. This is the yeah, but person. The critic who dismisses opportunities without really analyzing them.
The instant doubter.
Exactly. They hear about an idea and instead of thinking, how could that work? They immediately focus on why it won't work, or why it's too hard, or why it's a scam. Doubt becomes their default response.
He used that real estate example again here, didn't he?
Yes, the classic, I don't want to fix toilets objection.
Huh.
Someone hears about rental properties and that's their immediate block. They let one small, manageable, even outsourceable task
Become the reason they reject the entire possibility of financial freedom through real estate.
Right. The cynicism, the focus on the minor negative, shuts down their ability to see the bigger potential upside. They let the doubt win.
Okay. Fear, cynicism. What's number 3?
Negligence, which sounds like laziness, but he frames it more as being too busy.
Too busy working, maybe?
Often, yeah. Too busy with the demands of their job, or too busy consuming, watching TV, shopping, hobbies, or even seemingly productive things like playing golf or fishing all the time. The point is, they're too busy to actually focus on managing their finances or building assets.
So it's a kind of avoidance. Filling time so you don't have to face the financial stuff.
He suggests it often is. It's a way to avoid confronting a problem like not having enough assets or being too dependent on a paycheck that they probably know exists step down. They prioritize current comfort or distraction over future security.
Got it. Obstacle 4.
Bad habits. This one's about self-discipline, which Kiyosaki says is maybe the biggest differentiator between the rich and everyone else, particularly habits around paying bills.
How so? What's the bad habit?
The common habit is pay everyone else first. Get your paycheck, immediately pay the mortgage company, the credit card companies, the tax man, all the bills, and then see if anything is left over to save or invest.
And usually, there isn't much left.
Often, nothing. This habit reinforces living paycheck to paycheck and keeps you from building the asset column.
So what's the rich dad habit?
The opposite. Pay yourself first. Payez-vous en priorité. When income arrives, the portion designated for investment for building your assets is set aside first before the bills get paid.
Whoa, okay, that sounds stressful. What if you don't have enough left for the bills?
That's the point. Rich Dad argued that this pressure is good. It creates a sense of urgency, the looming bills, the creditors calling. It forces you to become more creative, more resourceful.
To find new ways to generate income, rather than just dipping into your savings or investments.
Exactly. It sparks financial ingenuity. It makes your financial brain work harder to solve the short-term cash flow problem without sacrificing the long-term asset building. If you don't have that discipline, the world will find ways to take your money before you get a chance to invest it.
Pay yourself first.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the 5th and final obstacle?
Arrogance. This is basically thinking you know it all, or that what you don't know isn't important.
Like dismissing accounting or law because it seems boring or complicated.
Precisely. Rich Dad's view was, what I know makes me money, what I don't know loses me money. Arrogance is often a mask for ignorance. People dismiss complex topics instead of admitting they need to learn more.
And that leads to mistakes.
Inevitably. If you're arrogant about finance, you won't learn about tax laws or investment analysis or market cycles. You'll make uninformed decisions and likely lose money. Then maybe blame bad luck instead of your own lack of knowledge. It closes your mind to essential learning.
All right, we've covered the mindset shifts, the core lessons, the skills, the obstacles. How does Kiyosaki suggest people actually start putting this into practice? What are the first steps?
Well, the biggest actionable step he emphasizes isn't about buying a specific stock or property. It's about shifting where you invest first.
Meaning?
Invest in your financial education. He argues your mind is your single greatest asset. Before you pour money into investments you might not fully understand, pour resources into learning.
So seminars, books, courses.
Yeah.
Learning how to identify and create good investments yourself.
Exactly. Instead of just handing your money over to a broker for mutual funds, invest in developing your own financial IQ. Learn accounting, learn about real estate, learn about markets. Become smarter about money first.
He shared a personal story about this, didn't he?
Yeah, quite powerfully. He talked about spending, I think it was $385 on a 3-day real estate seminar early on. That investment in his education, he claims, directly led to deals that made him millions and secured his financial freedom.
So that $385 investment paid off far more than just saving that same amount.
Orders of magnitude more, is his point. The knowledge gained allowed him to generate wealth actively, not just save passively.
Okay, invest in education first. What about practical tactics for actually doing deals, finding opportunities?
He gives a couple of very action-oriented tactics. The first one is simple, almost blunt. Make offers. Faites des offres.
Just start making offers on things.
Pretty much. He says people make investing too complicated. They wait for the perfect deal, which rarely just lands in your lap. Most sellers, especially in real estate or small business, initially ask for too much.
So you need to start the negotiation.
You need to get in the game. Make offers even if they seem low. The key is always including escape clauses.
Escape clauses. Like what?
Things like subject to inspection, subject to financing, or his famous one, subject to the approval of my business partner.
The partner who might be his cat.
Haha. Yeah, that was his illustrative example. The point wasn't the partner, it was having a way out if the deal didn't stack up after due diligence. But you can't find out if it's a good deal, you can't negotiate until you actually make an offer. Action is key.
Makes sense. Get the ball rolling. What was the second tactic?
See bigger? Or voyez d'abord plus grand? Think bigger picture.
Instead of just looking for something small you can afford right now.
Exactly, that limits you. The tactic is find a large, desirable deal, maybe a bigger piece of land or a larger property than you could buy outright. Secure an option to buy it, giving you control for a period without full ownership yet.
Okay, so you control the big piece. Then what?
Then you use your financial intelligence. You find other buyers for smaller pieces of that larger deal. You carve it up.
And sell off those smaller pieces.
Often for enough money to cover the cost of the entire original option or even make a profit, which means you end up acquiring the most desirable core part of the asset, the piece you wanted all along, potentially for free, or even getting paid to take it.
Wow. Okay, that's definitely thinking bigger. Using financial creativity, not just your own capital.
That's the essence of it. Leverage, knowledge, and action over just having a lot of starting cash.
So wrapping this all up, what's the final message Kiyosaki leaves us with?
It really comes down to choice. Every dollar you have, he says, is like a vote you cast for the kind of financial future you want.
How so?
Well, you can spend it carelessly on things that lose value instantly. That's a vote for being poor. You can spend it mostly on liabilities and paying bills, just maintaining your current situation. That's a vote for staying middle class. Or you can prioritize directing that dollar towards your asset column, buying things that generate income and towards your financial education. That's a conscious vote for building wealth and achieving independence.
So it's about being intentional with every dollar.
Very intentional. And realizing that the old advice, just work hard, save diligently, maybe borrow for a house, might not be enough anymore, especially in a fast-changing world.
And the final thought, the one to really chew on.
It's this idea that money is just an idea. It starts in your head. You don't necessarily need money to make money. You need the right ideas, the financial intelligence, and the courage to act.
So focus on making money work for you.
Yes. Stop just working for money. Don't try to avoid risk entirely. Learn to manage it by getting smarter, by playing with finesse, as he puts it.
Because true wealth isn't about finding one lucky break.
No, it's about the continuous process, relentlessly building your financial intelligence and then consistently acting on the opportunities, big and small, that show up every single day once you know how to look for them.
Because if you commit to that mental exercise,
the compounding effect of assets working for you will eventually outpace anyone just relying on working harder for a paycheck. That's the core promise.
a powerful set of ideas to consider. Thanks for breaking that down.
My pleasure. Lots to think about there. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.